What is going on, YouTube? Roboswitch here, bringing you guys another Digimon content video. This time we have one of my favorite decks of the format, just because of how angry it is. Red Hybrid. This as designated by this very, very pretty Emperor Greymon alt art, one of my favorite alt arts of the deck. But without further ado, we'll go ahead and hop into the deck profile. I'll kind of go over some of the key cards to go over, and maybe some options to switch over whenever we get to budget options. First off, I run 4 Kaporimon, max consistency. Demi-Meramon always felt like a whiff because I could never pierce through stuff when I had a Tamer on field because I couldn't get the extra DP. So Kaporimon, just really good all-around rookie to go into max consistency. Make sure you see your plus 1k when you need to see it. Next up, we'll go with 4 copies of BT7 Flamemon. This gives your Ancient Greymon piercing. We're going to run Ancient Greymon in this list. There's some other options, but Ancient Greymon and hybrids get piercing with this. This is just really good all around rookie. The 3k DP may come up every now and then, but most of the time it's just good inheritable piercing. So we definitely max out on that so we can get our big boys to pierce. And then we run 3 copies of the Searcher. Of each one, BT7 and BT4. This way, if the game has to go long, maybe we're not finding our pieces, we really dig. I don't max out on them. I put them in the sideboard. I'll show you that near the end of the video. We are having sideboards until after DigiFest if it goes to being all the time. But this is a good way to search for your pieces. This one digs for the BT7 one and can play a Takuya if it's in the inherited sources when it's deleted, which can come up when the Ancient Greymon deletes itself off of the effect of the Agunimon. And then this Flamemon can pick up 2 cards, but it can also, or it only searches 3. So this one also only grabs a Takuya, which isn't that bad because Takuya is actually very, very good in this deck. So 3 apiece on those. And then some utility level 3s, we run 2 Gaussmon. This Gaussmon is just really good in all the formats right now. There's so many hybrids that like to cheat into your level 5 hybrids for 1 memory, or if there's things like Lilithmon going around, stuff like that. HPD is still a thing in some green lists. So know that you can reduce, they can't reduce the play cost or the Digivolution cost with this Gaussmon on the field. So I like to run it at 2. You could easily put this in the sideboard in place of 1 each and max out on the Flamemons, but I like to run 2 in the main board just because it comes up enough in this format so far. And then last but not least on the rookies, we run 2 Bokomon. This is another card that you could take out depending on the situation. Like, you don't always have to have the Bokomon. I found it's nice when you see it, and it does help you dig 5 cards deep, but it's not always necessary in the list. Usually, sometimes just having the hybrids, having the Tamers, and having the Ancient Greymon to check somebody's security so fast is really all you need. But he does gain you 2 memory when you digivolve one of your Tamers. This kind of comes up sometimes. I guess the most important, or like some niche situations, are when you warp into Emperor Greymon, you can reduce the Digivolution cost of the Takuya by 2. So that's another thing that comes up. And then we run the 4 promo Agunimon that lets you cheat into Ancient Greymon when you attack for 2 memory. And then he also has the inherited effect of when this Digimon were to digivolve into an Ancient Greymon, you can reduce the memory cost, memory cost by 2. Gaussmon and stuff does stop this inherited effect, so just know that. But this is a card that also has gotten a little expensive recently because of how popular this deck has gotten. A lot of people are really liking it. It's really aggressive. People are thinking it's pretty top tier. So I know these are about 20 plus a pop, maybe. They might have gone up since the date of this recording, and the Ancient Greymons are expensive. So if you don't have this, max out on the other Agunimon that we're going to go over here in a little bit from BT4, and then maybe max out on the Burning Greymon. Maybe not max, maybe a 3 of. That way you can have another Digimon to go on top of your Tamers if you can't cheat into the Agunimon. That Ancient, or that Burning Greymon actually can kind of come up because he does activate Takuya's inherited effect, because on your turn he does gain plus 3000 DP, so I believe he's 9k with Takuya, he's then 11k, and then that activates Takuya's security attack plus 1 effect. So speaking of Burning Greymon, we do run the 4 copies of the BT7 one. This is just all around good when you digivolve this on top of a Takuya. You get to pop a level or a 4k or less Digimon, and then or a hybrid. So if you go on top of maybe a a tie into an Agunimon into this, then you can still get the effect, and he digivolves on top of other level 4s for only 1 cost. So you can just Burning Greymon into Burning Greymon too. That's actually a pretty solid play. So, and then last but not least, the other Agunimon I mentioned, 3 of. This is just, I like to make sure I can see hybrids to go into on top of my tamers. It's really important to finish out games in this format. And I've seen some people maybe only run 1 or 2 and then just go into the keep on with these, but I feel like I really need to see it. Like I said, if you don't have the promo Agunimons and the Ancient Greymon package, you can definitely cap out on this and then run 3 of or 4 of the BT4 Burning Greymon, so you have another tamer. He does take 3 to Digivolve on top of the tamer, but the effect can come up where he gains the DP to have that extra aggression or stuff like with Takuya's effect. And then we go into our level 5s. We run 4 copies of Aldemon. I like to max out on this because I really like to see this card, if not necessarily just to Digivolve into, which is pretty good because if he's on top of something like Takuya, then he does become a 12k beater. But when he Digivolves that turn, he gains the other, he gets 14k technically because of Takuya's effect. And then he also has this really good inheritable of whenever this Digimon has hybrid or 10 warriors in its traits, it doesn't activate security effects. So this can kind of come up when you go and maybe like warp into your Emperor Greymon, or just Digivolve this in Emperor Greymon. You have a built-in ADP, so you don't need to worry about dying to security effects. Now, only option security effects, I should say. So really like that Aldemon. And then we run 1 copy of BT4 Aldemon. If you don't have the Emperor or Ancient Greymon package, you cap out on this. You run 4 of this, in my opinion, instead of the Ancient Greymon. He still gives very, very high aggression. You just can't cheat him out as quickly. He has built-in security attack +1. He does Digivolve for 3 as a level 5. And then on your turn, as long as there's a red tamer or a hybrid, he gains +4k. So he's at 11k. He has Takuya in the sources, he's at 12k. And then he gets 3 checks, not to mention you can use stuff like Atomic Inferno. So I really do like this Aldemon. Really good option if you don't have the Ancient to go into. Speaking of Ancient, we run 4 copies of Ancient Greymon. He is just definitely the biggest boss monster you want to cheat into. Swing that promo Agunimon to memory, you're now Ancient Greymon. At least 3 checks. If you've used Atomic Inferno on the Agunimon, then you have that to go into. So he could be 4 checks, and then he may have Piercing, or he may have the on deletion play a Takuya effect. All those are pretty good. But he also has the other, because he gets +1 security attack for every hybrid in his traits or in his sources, and then he also has on deletion. Whenever he's deleted, you play a level 4 or lower hybrid. This is really good to have like follow-up plays to maybe get a search off with like a free flame onto the deletion. You play it, get the search. Maybe you have that Takuya deletion effect, inheritable one, if he's in the Ancient Greymon sources. So then he's deleted at the end of the turn. You play the new Takuya effects, or the searcher, find a Takuya that you didn't have before, and then play the Takuya off of the effective Flamemon. So really strong card, really strong combo. Then we run 2 copies of Emperor Greymon. Again, another budget option. If you don't have the Ancient Greymons, you just cheat, you max out on this too. You can run 4 of this. Because it's definitely the bigger boss monster that you're going to see over Ancient Greymon. But he has Blitz, which is always really good when you Digivolve. He's got Blitz, and then if he is blocked, you get to unsuspend him and then gain memory for every hybrid in his sources. So sometimes you can Digivolve, if you just Digivolve into him regularly, you swing, he should probably have 3 or 4 hybrid in the sources, so you gain 3 or 4 memory back if they block, and then you can continue your plays with something like another hybrid per game, or maybe something like that, swing again with this guy. So had it kind of come up where I had a Rebellion on the side of my field, I was playtesting, and they cheated into this, the Rebellion blocked, but his effect activates after the reaction timing of Rebellion. So even though the Rebellion has retaliation, he will restand and gain the memory beforehand. So know that the retaliation for Rebellion does not kill him before he gains the memory and restands. So really good if you need to bait out a play like that to extend your plays and maybe swing for game the next turn. Then we run onto our Tamers. We run 4 Takuya. He's just all around the best guy. Great inheritable, +2 KDP, and if they're above 10k, you get security attack +1. Security effect, he comes out, of course, but then he also has this nice effect that lets you put 5 sources underneath and 5 hybrids from the trash, not hand, from the trash to underneath him as sources, and then you can Digivolve into Emperor Greymon. and then, you know, swing maybe for a game. You don't have to Digivolve into Emperor Greymon. What's in your hand is private knowledge. You haven't had to reveal it, Emperor Greymon, because it's not Emperor's effect, it's Takuya's effect. So you can tuck all the sources, maybe get some good sources from like the promo Agunimon or the Aldemon, and then all of a sudden now you have this Takuya with a whole bunch of cool sources, and then you Digivolve like a Burning Greymon on top of him. And then you Digivolve into the Aldemon for 1, and then if you have the 2 promo Agunimons, then you Digivolve into Ancient for 1. Now that Ancient Greymon has like 8 security attack plus, and he's got all these pretty awesome inheritables. So really funny ruling interaction, but that is exactly how that works. So if anybody tries to stop you, you can always refer to this video, refer to a few wiki pages, ask a judge as well if you have a judge there that can go over it. But that is how this card is ruled, and that makes for some funny interactions. But all of a sudden this Takuya has 5 sources underneath it, and he's nothing. It's just a Takuya. Then our Memory Tamers, we run 3 ties. Ties just really solid. Memory Tamer, if you have 4 more cards in this sources, he gains security attack +1. The Digimon does. So it's really good with like paired with Takuya's effect. If you cheat into Emperor Greymon, you have Takuya's effect with security attack +1. You have 5 sources underneath the Takuya, so that's another security attack +1 because of tie. And then you have the actual check from Emperor Greymon, so that's 3 checks all in one turn. Just really solid if you have 2 of these on field. You know, everybody's kind of seen how Jesmon's done it, but I personally like how this does it because it's much more aggressive. It can follow up, and it doesn't have to just build 1 stack to do all of its cool stuff. So tie is also really good. I don't like Marcus. Marcus only triggers off of the Ancient Greymon and the Emperor Greymon, but he doesn't trigger off of Ancient Greymon if you cheat into him, because you have to suspend it on attack declaration, and you won't be able to gain the gain the memory because Agunimon is the one that's swung, not the Ancient Greymon. So I like tie over it because you can get that extra aggression from the security attack swing. Last 2 Tamers we play are 2 Analog Youth, Analog Boy, Analog Shonen, whatever you want to call them. On play, reveal 3, add a Digimon to your hand, and then when one of your Digimon with sources that is level 5 or higher is deleted, you can suspend him to gain a memory and hatch an egg. So really cool play usually that I like to do with this is you have the Ancient Greymon that's going to be deleted by the effect of the Agunimon after it is Digivolved at the end of the turn. Let's say you pass it to 1 memory on your opponent's side. End of a turn effect activates, the Ancient Greymon deletes itself. You suspend Analog Youth, you gain a memory and hatch an egg, and now you're at 0 memory, so now the turn has not passed, and then you activate Ancient's effect to then play another Digimon, and then you can still continue your plays. If you've hatched, if you know you would just raise that Agunimon up or something like that, then you have a new egg in the back to hatch onto or to Digivolve onto, and then you can Digivolve back there or Digivolve on something else that you have on the field, maybe into another Agunimon, because you want to follow it up with another big Angie Boy the next turn. So really good combo. If you're not running the Emperor pack or the Ancient Greymon package, you don't necessarily have to run these. I still think they work well to facilitate Takuya's effect to get the Digimon in the trash, so I still like running 2. You could maybe find a room for a 3rd one, but I feel like 3 gets a little too clunky. I don't always want to mill all my cards, so 2 seems to feel right. Option cards, we have 3 copies of Atomic Inferno. This is just play it for 1 on top of one of your hybrids. They get security attack +1, +3 KDP, and when they're blocked, gain 3 memory. That usually doesn't come up. Not a whole lot of blockers in this format, and most of the time they're not gonna block. It's just kind of a way to deter them from blocking unless they have to block. So that's always nice. Again, you play this on top of the Agunimon that cheats into Ancient Greymon. It still has a security attack when it Digivolves into Ancient. If you have the 3 sources or the 2 other hybrids underneath, now Ancient's checking for 4 security attack on turn 2. You know, your turn 2. So that's always just super solid. And then you play a Digimon off his effect. If, God forbid, you have a Tamer in the back, now your opponent has to deal with a Digimon on the field and a Tamer in the back. Maybe they don't have enough security left, maybe they don't have any security left, maybe they don't have a way to get rid of either of those issues, the Digimon on field or the Tamer, and this is just, there's nothing they can do about it. You know, turn 2, 4 checks, it's kind of hard to deal with sometimes. And then we run a couple of removal options. Atomic Blaster comes out of security. Its effect is the main. At 5 cost, delete up to 8,000 DP worth of Digimon. So if your opponent has a 3K, a 3K, and a 2K, you delete all of them. 5K and a 3K, 5K and a 2K, 6K and a 2K. You know, Math is hard sometimes, but make sure you know it. 8k is the key number. If you see a cool combo for like a 1, a 2, and a 5, you can clear the whole board off with just 1 5 cost. So run 2 of these. I couldn't really find room to fit other things, but I have sided in some stuff, which we'll go over now. But I do like having these in the main board because it does come up in this format. A lot of small people, and it's also good to get rid of like some 8k beaters too. Level 5 hybrids at least. To the side, the other 2 Flame Mon, one BT4, one BT7. Just really good if you want to remove out the Bokomon or the Gaussmon. Some decks you just don't need Gaussmon, but well. So now you have these 2 guys to put in instead of the Gaussmon. So I like to have them in the side just in case I need to use them. 2 Avenged Kidmon. This is really good against the decks like Security Control or decks like 3 Musketeers, as the card is just straight 3 Musketeers. Hey, you can reduce his play cost for every option in both your trash and your opponent's trash, and then on play you reduce or you delete. You take all, first off, you take all the option cards from both decks or both trashes and put them to the bottom of the deck. So this can completely shut down 3 Musketeers. And then his other on-play effect is you delete a 3 Musketeer Digimon or a Digimon with 8k or less DP. So, you know, maybe you're playing against someone there's 12 cards in both players' trash. You play them for 0, pop an 8k, pop a 3 Musketeers if it's 3 Musk. Now you have 11k beater on the field. It's just very angry boy, and it's just straight hate for one of my favorite decks in the format. Favorite decks, but I don't know why this card had to exist right away, but it has more utility outside of 3 Musketeers, so that's kind of where I see the play usually, because not a lot of 3 Musketeers running around right now. Next up for the side, we got a delicate plan. You know, if maybe you don't want to wait for the Aldemon, or you want to make sure your Ancient Greymon can actually get all of its checks in, it's good to, and you have the memory, just play an ADP, so now you don't have to worry about something coming out, blowing up your guy on 1 check if you're big enough to swing over most things. So run 2 copies. This did get an errata. It does not stop all option effects or all security effects, it's only option effects, so just kind of know that. Next up we have 2 Plasma Stake. This is kind of specifically for green, or like if Mega Zoo ever shows back up again or something like that, because all of their big beefy guys are 13k or higher. So this targets those for less memory than, let's say, something like a Gaia Force, because it is just 4 cost. So if they don't have a memory tamer, you can blow up their big guy and then leave them with 1 memory, because there's no other extra way to gain memory in this deck unless there's multiple Pokemon on the field. So this is just a good tech card for some of those. And then you have things like yellow hybrids that don't have big 13k beaters like that, other than outside of like Susanomon. So we run 2 copies of Gaia Force. Gaia Force just gets rid of those big guys that you can't really deal with easily, because if you can't pierce through them and they're less than 13k and they're bigger than 8k, then you have this weird gray area where you can't deal with it, whereas Gaia Force easily can deal with those. It comes out of security, it does the damage, or you can just play it, you know, maybe it sucks to pass people over to more than 3 memory sometimes, but sometimes it's necessary to just deal with a bad board presence that you don't want to deal with anymore. So, but anyway, guys, that'll be the end of the deck profile. I really do enjoy this deck list. It is super aggressive, very, very strong in the meta. Just being able to burst through a bunch of security really fast is very, very hard to deal with for some decks. Even like Yellow Hybrid, which a lot of people think is top tier, but any setup deck, if you can get this off, they might not have time to set up and they might not have the removal to deal with it. So really enjoy this deck profile. I like the options to switch it for a little bit cheaper if you can't afford some of the more expensive cards, so be sure to keep those in mind. But other than that, guys, tell me what you thought about the deck profile. If you have any other side options that you may want to put in instead of what I did, be sure to leave them down in the comments below. Maybe some changes to the list that you've personally had success with. Other than that, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more Digimon TCG content, more gameplay videos, more deck profiles in the future. And until next time, guys, have a good one.